Welcome to the Saskatchewan Apprenticeship and Trades certification process, seminar, webinar, whatever we're calling it. I'm going to go over this brief outline of my presentation today. The role of the SATCC, which is our shortened version of the Saskatchewan Apprenticeship and Trade Certification Commission, because that is very much a mouthful. The Saskatchewan's designated trades that we have here, the steps to apprenticeship, the trade qualifier pathway, and the benefits of certification. So the role of the SATCC. We are an industry-led, arm's-length government organization dedicated to training apprentices and certifying tradespersons. We are an educational institution, much like a college, university, or technical training institution. We're also a certification body responsible for issuing the Journeyperson credentials. Sorry. The key differences between our education system and other education institutions is that we don't train apprentices ourselves on site. Instead, we rely on thousands of individual employers to deliver the bulk of the training to their own apprentice employees in their workplaces under the guidance of skilled Journeyperson mentors. We also contract other institutions, Saskatchewan Polytechnic and regional colleges, for instance, to provide theory-based technical training to complete the work-based learning. So in Saskatchewan, we have quite a few designated trades. There are more than 40 trades, and there are 20 sub-trades in Saskatchewan. These are just a few of the trades, and we have them kind of listed into the 4 sectors. So we have agriculture, tourism, and service sector, the motive repair sector, the production and maintenance sector, and the construction sector. So like I've said, these are just a few of our options. We have many more. You can find all of the information about the trades that we have in Saskatchewan on our website, which is www.saskapprenticeship.ca. If you go to the designated trades section, it will open up the list of everything that we will run apprenticeship for through Saskatchewan, and you can find out information about each trade and how long it will take you to certify, etc. So apprenticeship is 2 to 4 years of hands-on paid work. So that works out to be about 85%. So 85% of the time, you will be working at your job. This is combined with in-class technical training, which is about 15%. So I'll give you an example. For 1 year, you would work for 85% of the time, and at the end of that year, you would go to the Technical Training Institute for your technical training, which can be anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks of in-school training. So how does an apprentice become a Journeyperson? They would complete a certain amount of training hours while working under a Journeyperson or experienced mentor, and that's just your day-to-day work. You would be typically, a full year of work is 1,800 hours. That's full-time, 40 hours a week. Once you've hit 1,800 hours, you would be eligible to go to your first level of technical training. You also receive technical training hours or trade time hours towards your total training hours required. So a typical trade would require 7,200 hours. That is 4 years of working. And so it typically doesn't take you that long to complete a 4-year apprenticeship and get all of their requirements in there. Once you've completed your apprenticeship, so you've attended all of the levels of training successfully, at the end of that, you will write a Red Seal Journeyperson exam, and our pass requirements is 70%. Once you achieve a Red Seal endorsement, you are qualified to work in your trade anywhere in Canada. Not every trade in Saskatchewan is a Red Seal trade. Some trades, including esthetician, food and beverage person, and guest services representative, require a provincial journeyperson certificate. So these certificates allow you to work anywhere in the province as opposed to anywhere in Canada. So in order to apprentice in a voluntary trade, candidates need to secure employment with an employer who is willing to commit to their on-the-job education and who is able to provide the necessary mentorship. So when I talk about voluntary trades, most of our trades are voluntary. There are 5 trades that are not voluntary, and I will discuss those in a minute. But in order to be an apprentice, the first step is for you to find an employer that will employ you and agree to mentor you and train you on the job. Depending on the voluntary trade, there are 2 to 4 levels of 3 to 10 weeks of technical training, and those sessions occur in a classroom or online. These technical training periods are relatively short because the bulk of the learning happens on the job, which is the 85%. Apprentices learn how to perform their work on the job site and learn why they do what they do at the technical training session. In order to be an apprentice, you must be a resident of Saskatchewan. So certification as a skilled tradesperson. Tradespersons are skilled workers who work in one of our voluntary trades and have not entered into an apprenticeship agreement. A tradesperson must work a set number of hours and years in the trade before they can apply to have their skills assessed as a trades qualifier. If their application is approved, they could then challenge the Journeyperson exam. Tradesperson is an individual who is working at one of the non-compulsory or voluntary designated trades, but is not an apprentice or a journeyperson. A trades qualifier is a tradesperson that has established eligibility to challenge a certification exam. And that can be important for people that have immigrated to Saskatchewan, as they might have experience from their home country that would be valuable or considered enough to qualify to write our exams. So I'm going to talk about the trade qualifier pathway. So this would be a situation where you don't have to be a resident of Saskatchewan. So the designated trades that are compulsory in Saskatchewan are electrician, plumber, refrigeration mechanic, and sheet metal worker. So what compulsory means is that in order to be working in any of these trades, you must be an apprentice or a journey person. You cannot be doing the work of the trade unless you are one of those 2 things. Hairstylist is a regulated trade in Saskatchewan. It's a little bit different. There is a pre-employment requirement of training. So if you live in Saskatchewan and you would like to be a hairstylist, you must attend a 1,500-hour pre-employment hairstylist program before you can sign up as an apprentice. If you have come here from another country and you have proof that you've been a hairstylist in your own country, then you may apply as a trades qualifier, and I will explain how to do that. So voluntary trades, that is all the rest of our trades. They are voluntary. That means that you do not have to be certified by us to work in that trade. But if you have worked in that trade, typically most of them are 6 years or more, you will be eligible to apply to challenge our Red Seal exams, which can be beneficial for you for finding employment. So The first step would be to apply for assessment by completing the application Form 7 and providing evidence of your trade experience with the appropriate Form 6A for your trade. So this form that I'm sharing with you, if you look in the middle, you can see that this is for a carpenter. On our website, under each trade, you can find a 6A form for every trade that we have. So you do need to find the one that applies to you. So you would complete this form and have it signed, hopefully by your employer back home that you worked for. If you are, if you do this, you will need to have it commissioned or signed by a commissioner for oaths if it's coming from another country. There's a consent to release personal information and the fee schedule. So that'll be shown on the next form. A consent to release form would be used for individuals who want their information to go to a third party. So if you're working with a third party immigration consultant, for example. So this is the Form 7 that I was talking about. This is the trade qualifier application. There are fees that are involved for this. So you would want to make sure that you look under the designated trade on our website to make sure that you have the required hours and experience before you apply. The form on the right-hand side, you would fill in the trade, all of your personal information. You need to be a permanent resident of, well, you don't actually have to be a permanent resident, but I think that you all are. You would check that box. And the instructions are on the left-hand side, and this is included with the form. The fee is $400. There is an arrow pointing to the domestic applicants for hairstylists. That does not apply unless you were trained as a hairstylist or esthetician in Saskatchewan. Everybody else that's applying for every other trade, the fee is $400. And you would submit this paperwork along with your 6A form and your fee. So the Form 6A, again, is the document that you would complete to prove that you have the required amount of hours and experience with your employer from your home country or from here. This still applies to you if you've been working in Saskatchewan for 10 years as an automotive service technician, you would be able to do this as well. So we want one 6A form per employer. So if you work for 2 different companies, then you need one for each. So the SATCC assessment unit completes the assessment process. Once they have your forms submitted and your fee, they verify the hours, dates, and tasks performed for each employer form. Applicants in the compulsory trades must provide credentials and transcripts along with the Form 6A and employer letters. So if you are telling us that you're an electrician, plumber, sheet metal worker, refrigeration and air conditioning mechanic, or sprinkler fitter from your home country, you do need to provide us with your credentials, any kind of certificates that you had, any kind of education and transcripts that you had from your home country needs to be provided along with your application. Once the information provided to us is assessed, you will receive a letter from the SATCC assessment unit, and they will let you know if you are approved, if you are not approved, or if more information is needed. Sometimes they have some questions regarding the paperwork that you filled in. Sometimes you may have made an error and they have questions. So if you do receive that outcome where they need more information, it's best to get it to them as soon as possible to not hold up your chance to write your exam. The results letter is not a certificate of qualification. It is only the results of the assessment. Once you are approved, you may apply for the examination. The fee is $125 and you need to fill out a Form 2. That's this form right here. So there are instructions. I think one of the most important thing to remember is checking off this translator required box. That will trigger a request to one of the consultants like myself, and we will have a quick meeting with you and talk to you about your first language, how long you've been here, and if you require a translator. That is something that you are very welcome to do when English is an additional language for you. We do not provide the translator for you, so you can bring someone else. The only stipulation is that they cannot be of the same trade as you. So if you were writing any kind of exam for a mode of trade, like automotive, heavy duty equipment, anything like that, the person that is reading for you cannot have that knowledge. If you are a welder, you cannot bring a welder to read for you, etc. And I know that after talking yesterday with them, that the Ukrainian Canadian Congress has some connections with people that will translate for you. One of the most important things to do is make sure that you have someone who can translate very well and can read and speak English very well. The exam will be provided to you in English, and the translator would receive a copy, and you will sit in a room with your translator and with someone like myself, and you would get an extra hour and be able to write the exam with the whole thing verbally translated to you. So this is just a breakdown of the International Trade Qualifier application process. So step 1, apply for assessment. It's about a 4 to 6 week wait for the assessment process. And then step 3, you will receive your results in a letter or an email if you are approved or not approved. If you are approved, you apply to take the exam. We have exam sittings once a month in Saskatoon and in Regina. And we also have some exams in smaller cities, just not as many offered, but there are. And you can find the information to that on our website, including the schedule. You challenge the exam. If you pass, you receive a Journeyperson certificate. If you are unsuccessful, you can apply to take the exam for a second time. You must wait 3 months in between attempts, and you would write it the second time. If you have to write it more than 2 times, you are in a mandatory upgrading training situation, which means that you would have to apply for upgrading and meet with a consultant, and there are a few ways to go about it. I do want to mention, if you do apply to take an exam and we have an upgrader available, so that means a course. It's typically a 7-week course. We don't have them for every trade, but some of our trades like carpenter or welder, we do have 7-week upgraders. You can attend those just as you would an apprenticeship training course to prepare yourself to challenge our exams if you decide to. They cost money. Typically, they're less than $900 for 7 weeks. And you would be eligible to collect employment insurance while you attend that. And I didn't talk about that much with apprenticeship, but also if you attend technical training as an apprentice, when you leave your job for 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks to attend, you would receive employment insurance payments from the federal government for that. If you were to receive a letter that you're not approved, typically it could be for more information required. And like I said, make sure that you send that information back to us as quickly as possible so that you can not delay your start to writing the exam. But I see that there are 2 different ways if you're applying in Canada or out of Canada, and there are mandatory certificates that are required for these compulsory trades. So the benefits of certification, industry, employers want skilled workers, and if they know that you have passed a level of certification that is required in Saskatchewan, that makes you more employable. You receive good pay, respect. There are various career paths, hands-on work, practical skills, and accomplishments. So here are some of our resources. The website that I was talking about, the SASKApprenticeship.ca. You can look for the pathway descriptions and definitions. So I showed you the experienced workers international application process. That's really important if you need to challenge. The other thing that I do want to mention is if you decide that you would like to find an employer who will support you through an apprenticeship, that's great. Biggest requirement that you will need is to have a Canadian language benchmark of over 6 in all 4 areas. Once you become an apprentice, they expect that your English level be at a 6 or higher, and you will not be qualified, or you will not be eligible for a translator through apprenticeship. So you need to have the appropriate English level in order to go through technical training, as it's all delivered in English. Okay, so now I'm gonna turn this off and answer some questions. Can everyone see me again?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
So I have 2 questions, and I think that one you have answered already. How long does it take? How long does it approximately take to get your application assessed?
So it does take 4 to 6 weeks, especially if we're very busy, but most of the time it is quicker. And as long as you provide the correct email address, you will also be notified by email, which will be quicker than waiting for mail.
Okay, and another one, can you confirm that you get additional time during the exam if you are writing it with a translator?
Yes, so what would happen is that form that I showed you, you check that translator required box. And what that means is that I will, well, not just me, there are 15 people like me in Saskatchewan. So depending on where you live, the request will be sent to someone like myself. We will contact you and we will fill out the request. I've never had anybody not be approved. So what that means is that typically we give 4 hours for the exam, but if you need a translator, you will receive 5 hours and you would bring your translator, and it'll be in a quiet space. So you'll be sitting in a room with your translator and a field consultant, and that's it. If you write without a translator, you are in a large room with many candidates that are also writing in the same way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and how many attempts does the applicant have?
Okay, so you have 2 attempts before mandatory upgrading is required. So you can write it your first time. If you think that you know what you missed and you want to try it again, you apply, you pay $125, and you can write it 3 months later. You need to wait 3 months because we want you to be studying and preparing in those 3 months. If you are unsuccessful a second time, you must apply for upgrading. So upgrading can mean many things. It doesn't mean that for sure you have to take technical training. It could mean that you require a tutor, you need to do more studying. We have practice exams that we would do, but like I said, we do have upgraders. So let's say you were unsuccessful at the welding exam 2 times. You would benefit from attending the welding upgrader because it is like a refresher, and it's 7 weeks and it's in class, hands-on, which is very helpful for people. And for that, they don't typically require a CLB or a Canadian language benchmark. You can take the course. It might be more difficult for you if your English level isn't high enough, but you could also take more English classes and then take that course. You have all the time in the world. It's not something that you have to do right away. You can keep working towards it. So we give 4 attempts, but your 3rd and 4th attempt would require mandatory upgrading.
Mm-hmm. And it will cost, right?
Yes, there are fees. So our current fee, I believe, is $105 a week. And so it depends on how long your course is. If it's 7 weeks, it could be $735 for the upgrader. So
Mm-hmm.
that's very subsidized by the Saskatchewan tax dollars. So it does seem like a lot of money, but it's very much more money for that seat. So if you're a permanent resident in Saskatchewan, you are eligible to attend that and pay that amount. The other thing that I didn't touch on that wasn't in my slideshow is that in Canada, if you complete an apprenticeship, you receive some extra grant money. So that's different than being a trades qualifier and challenging the exam and passing the exam. You become a journey person in that scenario. But if you attend an apprenticeship program, you also will receive a certificate of completion of apprenticeship. And what that means is that you are eligible for the federal grants. So in Canada, after completing your first level of technical training, which will cost you less than $1,000, you can apply for the apprenticeship incentive grant, and you will be sent $1,000 from the Canadian government. It's a taxable benefit, but it basically covers your tuition. So you can apply for that after level 1, and you can apply for that after level 2. So that's $2,000. Once you become a journey person, so you've completed your apprenticeship and you've passed the exam, the Canadian government will give you another $2,000. So that's $4,000 total, and your tuition currently costs less than $1,000 for each level. And some trades, there are only 3 levels. So welders, you would get the 1,000 after level 1, 1,000 after level 2. You would complete level 3, become a journey person, and then you get another $2,000. So you're making money in that scenario. There are also grants for women in non-traditional trades. So if you are a woman and you sign up to be a carpenter, you will receive $3,000 after level 1 and $3,000 after level 2. So you get some extra incentive, but it's only for trades that are traditionally men.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think that Oksana, did you have any questions?
Actually, asking the question I had, so it's about like if you will have to pay for each time you take the exam, right? You will have to pay the fees.
So when you apply as a trades qualifier, once you're approved like that, those fees are $400. So that's your big one. Once you're approved, you don't pay those fees anymore, but you do have to pay for every attempt at the exam. That's $125.
Okay.
That's a bit better. So if you are unsuccessful your first time, you apply again for $125.
Okay, and another question, I would like to go on back to the proof for your experience. For example, if the company I work for in my back country, if it's not exist anymore, how can I get the proof?
So there is another form on our website. It is just called a Form 6. So my advice to you is to print that form and print the, what trade are you talking about?
It's actually for my husband. He's welder.
Okay.
He's
so
welder.
For welding?
Yes.
Okay. So for him, print off the 6A, because that 6A will have all of the sections of welding in those boxes.
Okay.
And then you're going to print off the Form 6, which is similar, but way longer. And you're going to put all the information in that form, and you can use the template from the 6A of all the subjects, write them in there. And then you need to go find a notary or a commissioner for oaths. And typically you can find them at like license issuers, SGI, Galan Insurance, for example. They typically have someone on staff, and a commissioner of oaths is cheaper, but you can pay them. And what they will do is they will have you swear to that document that you're going to submit to us, and they will stamp it. So then you will be swearing to them that the information is true.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And to clarify, Lindsay, the written test and practical test exams, is it additional cost or it includes in $120?
So
Right.
for welder, for example, once they pay the exam fee, it covers their first attempt at each.
Okay.
If you have to apply again for the practical exam, I believe you'd have to pay $175 for that.
Okay, basically for
Mhm.
full exam, even you don't have to take written, you're still paying for this. Okay.
Yeah,
But
and
the first price covers both.
right. Most of our trades in Saskatchewan do not have practical exams, but some of them do, and welder is one of them. Machinist, hairstylist, aesthetics, and in some cases, automotive, what are they called now? We were just talking about it. Auto body
Technicians,
repair.
auto body technicians.
Yeah. So if you are an apprentice for auto body, you do not do a practical because you do all of that in your levels of training. If you come to Canada, or if you've lived here and worked in the trade and decide to challenge the exam, you will be required to do a practical exam as a trades qualifier, and it is mostly welding on to make sure that they know how to hold the car together properly, I assume. But that happens a couple times a year at the most, because we just don't have as many people up challenging that exam. But the welder one, for example, that happens many times in a year because there are lots of people that do that practical exam.
So do they do that on site or?
Most of our practical exams happen at SAS Polytech. We rent their facilities and borrow all their equipment. Hairstylist, we rent the local hairstyling college, and I run it out of there. But in every scenario, the written must be passed first before you can apply to challenge the practical. The other thing that was asked of me to share is briefly about the Saskatchewan Youth Apprenticeship Program. That's for high school students in Saskatchewan. So it's open to kids in grade 10 to 12. They just need to contact their guidance counselor and ask to be signed up. And the benefits of the program, it's free to them, and they participate in some tasks that they have to complete. Some of them on their own time, some of them will be attending a career fair or being in a practical applied arts class, which could be, carpentry or home ec. One of the things that they have to do is interview a Journeyperson. It's 10 tasks, and it's not that involved, and it's really a great program. And if they complete it, they receive their apprenticeship fees. Those costs are covered, and their first year of tuition for technical training is also covered. So that's almost $1,000 right there that they wouldn't have to pay upfront as a first year apprentice. And also in Saskatchewan, we give out a lot of $1,000 scholarships. I believe we give out 100 of them. So if your child participates in the youth apprenticeship program in high school, and they apply for that scholarship for grade 12, chances are they're going to be eligible for that as well, and that will help pay for tuition as well.
It's good to know.
A really great program as well. And they get some hours credit when they start.
Mhm.
Oksana, go ahead.
So I would like to clarify, I was a little bit confused about the English and translator. So you were saying to become an apprenticeship, you will need CLB 6, right?
Yes.
So, and if you have CLB 6, you're not allowed to have a translator at your exam.
For apprenticeship, yes. But if your husband applies as a trades qualifier, he's eligible for his translator.
He's eligible.
Yes, as a trades qualifier, he would be eligible.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And do you have any requirements for the translation? I mean, like documents translation?
No, we do ask for photo ID, and we will confirm that they are not in our system, you know, as a welder reading to another welder. And we have a form that they sign. They tell us what they do for a living, and I'm a commissioner of oaths, so I have them swear to me that they're telling me the truth as well before they read.
But what about documents?
No documents. So there can be a situation, and it happens often, where the person that is being read to, their spouse has higher English levels than they do, so they bring their spouse.
And it's fine too. Friends, family members,
Anyone.
can be interpreters.
Correct. The most important thing to us is that they don't know anything about the trade.
Right.
They can't be experts in that trade or be participating in that same trade.
Right, but I mean documents from the employer from, for example, Ukraine. So they will give the documents filled out in Ukrainian language, and then probably the applicant has to translate them.
Okay,
Do you have
so-
any requirements for the document, like how it should be translated?
So any documents that you provide to us, they do need to be translated. So if you have a certificate showing that you did 1 year of training as a carpenter, for example, you can submit that to us, but it does need to be translated.
Good. Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right. Well, in that case, then the lunch is almost over, so we have to get back to work, I guess, everybody. And I just would like to thank you, Lindsey, very much for this very useful and very informative presentation. We will also post the recording of this presentation on our social media sites as well. And so please feel free to share that recording with your friends who will be interested in that topic. And I think we will have more presentations or information sessions on the similar topics as well. And you can also let us know what other themes and topics you would like to learn about to provide you successful and smooth settlement in Saskatchewan. So thank you very much, Lindsey. Thank you everybody for coming, and take care. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Have a great day. Bye-bye.